Hi everyone, it's Darlene. Welcome back for another card video. Today's card is for my 17-year-old daughter who is finishing up her junior year, just a congratulations card. I'm using the Seamus Sheep stamp set by Jane's Doodles. Now you can see I started stamping the panel on the left. I'm not actually going to use that. I just wanted to keep this part of the video in so I can show you that I stamped it 3 times on some masking tape and cut it out so that I could use it as I'm layering all these sheep. So I am using the sheep that has the knitting needles, and you can see I'm putting a bunch on the bottom here, and I'm putting them at different heights so they look like they're just a big random group of sheep. And then I'm going to use 3 of my masks to cover up the sheep so that I can stamp the ones behind them. So I'm also using just a strip of my masking tape just to kind of cover up larger areas. So I was really careful not to let the knitting needles show up, so I'm just using the very top portion of the stamp that has the head and a little bit of the shoulders. I just keep moving the masks that I created around to where I need them. If you remember, I showed you that panel I started and didn't like, and it's because I did not stagger the sheep. So I put them kind of directly behind each other and it just didn't look good. So make sure that you alternate. Kind of the sheep that's in the back should be between the 2 that are in front. I left a little bit of a gap in the middle so that I could stamp this larger sheep that has his hands in the air, so it looks like he's kind of jumping behind. Okay, so now I have my Copic multi-liner. It's just a black pen that works well with Copic markers. And I'm just going to connect all of the pieces that didn't stamp because the masks were in the way. So here's that big one in the middle. I just added the bottom part, and then I also added his feet. It was just easier to draw it in than try to mask everything around it. For the top of my card, I'm using the My Favorite Things Stitched Speech Bubble Edges. I'm holding out this one, but I'm actually going to use the cloud looking one. I have a piece of Fog cardstock by Simon Says Stamp, and I'm just kind of positioning it on top of my sheet panel so I know how far down I want to cut it. So I ran that through the Big Shot, and I cut it a little extra long, so I'm just measuring how far I want it to come down, and then I trimmed it in my trimmer. For my very funny and interesting sentiment, I'm using the Neat and Tangled Journaling Alphas. I think my daughter is going to love this. So what I'm going to do is set them all up. I've cut them out of some Neenah cardstock, and I'm coloring them with purple, blue, and green. So I've lined them up so that I could do some shaded lilac in every 3rd one. So you can see how I laid them out, and I'm going to make sure that I do them in order. The exclamation point is a straight line. It's just an I because there is no exclamation point in the set, so I'm just going to cut that later. So once I have all of my shaded lilac pieces finished, I'm going to move on to Broken China. So I'm going to do the second letter, so right after each of the purples, I'm going to add a Broken China, and then I fill the rest in with the Cracked Pistachio. I've positioned all my letters so I know where they need to go. I'm kind of alternating them up and down a little bit to squeeze them in to fit them all on this one panel here. So I'm going to lift them up one by one with my tweezers, add some two-way glue on the back, and then put it right back where I pulled it up from. I'm just going to do this all the way across till I get to the exclamation point. And you'll see now when I have the exclamation point, I'm going to cut out a little segment in between. So I have the bottom that I clipped off, and that's going to be the point, and then the line is much shorter. So here I'm putting the line on, and then it's easier to put the glue directly onto the cardstock I'm sticking to, and then I can take this little tiny dot, which is just the bottom of my eye, and place it underneath there. So you can see the gap that I cut out. And that is it for the top part. I just wanted to add a little bit of color. Now I'm going to go ahead and color my sheep with my Copic markers. I'm going to start with W3, and you can see I'm making kind of these little semicircles all the way up and down this sheep, and I'm making them as random as I can. Some are short, some are long, and they're not in any sort of pattern. Then I'm going to take W1, and I'm going to kind of touch all of those lines that I made with the W3 in that same motion. And at the same time, I'm going to fill in a little bit more of the white area. So this is actually in real time that I'm showing you how fast I'm doing this, because I do want to press down and kind of get a thick line there. Now I fast forward it until I finish it up here. Now the next step is to take a zero colorless blender, and you can see it looks like there's a lot of harsh lines now, but what I'm going to do is, you can see this is real time, so you can see kind of I'm moving slow with this, and that will allow some of the ink to come out and blend. It's going to blend everything together nicely, and I'll also mute it just a little bit. I also need to color the top of his head with this same technique. So I'm going to quickly jump in here with the W3, the W1, and then blend it all with the 0. I did do one more step here, and it really added a lot of dimension to his fluffiness. So I'm taking the 0 Colorless Blender, and you can see I'm pressing it down in real time here in random locations. And what this is doing is pushing the color away, so it's creating more randomness in these two shades of W1 and W3. And that's pretty much it for the fluff. So I did this on every single sheet. Now I'm going to take away my 0 and add a W5. And I'm going to make his head, his face, a little bit darker. So I'm starting with the W5. I'm just going around the edges, moving in with the W3, and then finishing out with the W1. And I just did quickly the two dark colors on his paws that are hanging out there. Anyway, so I did the heads on every single one of these sheep. You can see this card does take quite a bit of time, but it's so cute with all those bright white eyeballs. So I'm going to take my ATG tape runner, put it on the back of my sentiment, and put it right there on my sheet panel. Then I'll put some tape runner on the back of that and add it to a Neenah Solar White card base. I am going to put a sentiment on the inside. I'm using this Stampin' Up! A Labeler alphabet, and I love it because the letters are small, but it also gives you black on white and white on black. So I'm going to do your A with the letters that are just plain letters. And then I put senior in there with the other type of letters. I did it twice because I didn't like the way it turned out the first time. Notice that I didn't stamp directly onto my card base because I was fearful that I might mess it up. So I thought this was a safer way to do it. And that is the card for today. I think she's really going to love it. I think this would make a great congrats card for pretty much any occasion. And you can just put that occasion on the inside. I hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.